Okay, welcome everybody. Nice to see you for this Keyword. Today's topic is job costing in QuickBooks Online. I'm very glad to have you all joining us. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Michelle Wong. I am a CPA located here in Kansas City, Missouri, right in the middle of the country where we're getting some rain today. I am an international speaker for Intuit. I'm thrilled to go around the country and as well as have been around the world helping accountants and bookkeepers learn about QuickBooks. So I'm glad you guys are joining me today to learn more about job costing in QuickBooks Online. I am the author of 5 different books. You guys can check those out. Those are all available on Amazon. And also love to have you join me and thousands, like over 160,000 other people on the LinkedIn group, as well as several thousand people join us on the QB Power Hour Facebook group. It's a great place to go when you have additional questions, so feel free to join us out there. Hector is not available today. As a lot of you know, we've got a big tax deadline coming up in a week or so, so Hector's busy doing taxes today, so he is not able to join me for this webinar today. Our agenda, we'll real quickly go over a little bit about QB Power Hour, the CPE process, upcoming live events, and then our topic and learning objective for today is I'm going to help you to understand how to set up and enter transactions for job costing in QuickBooks Online. We talked about some advanced job costing things last time on our QB Power Hour, and we went in depth, and it was primarily on desktops. We had a lot of people asking questions about QuickBooks Online and job costing and what you can and cannot do, so that's what we're going to be going over in this webinar today. A little bit about QB Power Hour. This is a free webinar series that we have every other Thursday. Our next episode is on the 22nd, and I believe we're going to be doing it on what's new in QuickBooks 2017. So you'll make sure you want to join us for all of the QB Power Hours. We do record them, and they are available on YouTube afterwards and in the QB Power Hour archives. But you can only get CPE if you're attending live. A lot of times we do different topics. We'll split it where we're talking about desktop and QuickBooks Online. However, this one is just QuickBooks Online, but a lot of the concepts are going to be the same in QuickBooks Desktop as what I'm showing you in QuickBooks Online, and I will specifically point out some things that are different. So that's a little bit about QB Power Hour. The CPE process. The CPE process is you must attend this live webinar. If you're listening to this recording on YouTube or in the QB Power Hour archives, you are not eligible for CPE. You have to be attending it live in order to be eligible. This one is not eligible for ACE, nor is the next one. Robin, I see you asked about the September 22nd webinar. That is not ACE approved either, okay? You must be logged in for at least 50 minutes sometime during the webinar. I will give you a CPE keyword. When I give you that, you write it down, and then later I will, just one second here. There we go. Then towards the end of the webinar, you'll get a poll question, and you'll need to answer that poll question with the CPE keyword so that you can get your CPE credit. Now, especially because it is tax time, allow 3 to 6 weeks to get that email certificate. Hector's very busy right now, so give him a chance to do that, and you'll get your email certificate in about 3 to 6 weeks. So just put a reminder on your calendar for 6 weeks, and then check for that email certificate. Some upcoming webinars and events. We have Accountant University. We're going to be doing some webinars and road shows. And I see we got Woody that's joined us. Woody, I don't know if you can find the registration link for that. If you could, that would be fabulous. The link to register for the QuickBooks Online Fundamentals Roadshow. We're going on to different cities as well as the QB the QuickBooks certification training. All of it is going to be various cities across the U.S. because, like, I know I'm going to California next week, San Diego, Glendale, and the LA area, I believe. Love to have you join us for some of these live roadshow events. Then also QuickBooks Connect. QuickBooks Connect is coming up in San Jose in October. It is going to be absolutely fabulous. So if you can join us for that in San Jose, it would be great to do that. The lineup of speakers and the training that's available is just great. So I'd encourage you to join us for QuickBooks Connect as well. And somebody's saying, when and where are the advanced roadshows? And Nita, you're right. There is also, in addition to the QBO regular certification preparation, QBO fundamentals that are going to be on the road, as well as some QuickBooks Advanced certification training is going to be on the road. I don't have the link for you right now, but I tell you what, I will get that available. And if you could follow me on Facebook or go to my website, subscribe to my blog, I will share that link out there a little bit later today. I'll get that link and share that for you. Okay? So love to have you join me for some of those things. All right, now, enough of seeing me on this webcam. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off now so we can focus on QuickBooks, okay? So it's good to see you guys, but let's go ahead and move on here. All right, so job costing in QBO. First of all, some of the things, a lot of the things, the principles and the concepts that you do in QuickBooks Online are going to be the same concepts as in the desktop. Obviously, they're going to look a little differently, though. So the first of all, you need to be aware that to do job costing in QuickBooks Online, you have to have QBO Plus. It's not available in Simple Start or Essentials. You need to have the Plus version in order to do that. So you'll want to go in, and instead of having jobs, you'll have sub-customers. I'll show you that. Also, there's some things that you need to set up in the company settings area as well as in the estimates. So let's just go ahead and go into QuickBooks Online and take a look at this. So I am in the sample company here, Craig's Design and Landscaping. So the first thing I want to show you is under the customers, you're going to see we've got this big list of customers here. Notice under Freeman Sporting Goods, we have two of them that are indented here. This 55 Twin Lane and Ocean View Row. In QuickBooks Desktop, that would be called a job. In QuickBooks Online, it's called a sub-customer. So let me go ahead and click on one of these and show you what I'm talking about there. I'm going to go in and edit this customer or this sub-customer. Notice right here where it's marked is a sub-customer. That makes it a job. So that's just a little terminology difference. I still call them jobs, but technically it's called a sub-customer. And you can choose how you want to bill that job. Do you want to bill this customer or this job separately, or do you want to bill it with the parent? So you can kind of choose how you want to do that there. So that's one thing to be aware of, is it's just a little different. Then the other thing to be aware of is some of the company settings that you'll want to make sure you've turned on and enabled and things like that. So I clicked on the big gear. I'm going to go under the account and settings. And let's go in here, and there's a couple of things that we want to look at. First of all, under the sales settings, we want to, under the, let me get it right here. Under the expenses settings, you want to go in here and make sure right up here, there's a couple things. Show the items table on the expense and purchase forms. What does that mean? Let me go ahead and open up another tab here, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. What that means is, let me close the settings in this tab. When you go to enter a bill or an expense, any of those things, a check, if I click on expense, let me just show you. There's two tables in there. There's a table here for account details and item details. The account is like if you wanted to post it directly to job materials or job expenses. You want to post it directly to the account. But with job costing, we usually want to use two-sided or double-sided items. So you can track some of the profitability by item, your product and service items. So in order to see this table, and in order to assign a product or service to it, you'd need to check this little box right here. Show the items table. Otherwise, you're just going to see the account, and you can't use an item at all. So first of all, you want to make sure you turn that on. Then you want to check the box, track the expenses and items by customer. Okay, so you want to make sure that you turn on that, where you want to track the expenses and items by customer. Now, you may or may not want to check the third one on here. Make the expenses and items billable. Oops, I'm sorry, you guys back? Everybody's getting me that I lost the audio. I should be back now. Sorry about that. Okay, so keep in mind that the job costing is not just for contractors. You could have a party planner that wants to track the expenses for the food and things like that to a particular job. You could have somebody who's in any service industry, like architects, engineers, of course lawyers, CPAs, and bookkeepers like us. We all may want to track expenses by job. So there's a lot of service-based businesses and maybe even some, that are tracking inventory as well, but a lot of businesses that want to track expenses by job, not just contractors, so keep that in mind. But one of the things that you have to keep in mind is some people will make these items billable, their expenses and items billable. They want to pass the cost through to their customers, and they may even want to mark it up a bit. I know some contractors where they're going to charge materials plus. So they may charge you for the materials plus a 20% fee for ordering them and getting them from the hardware store and delivering them to the job site or things like that. So they may mark it up. But you may have other people who say this is a fixed fee job. Let's say you've got that party planner, and the party planner says, hey, I will do your wedding for $5,000 or $10,000. And so they want to still track their cost in order to know that they bid the job right and what their profit was on that job. So sometimes they will pass the cost through to the customer. Sometimes they just want to track the cost. So you may or may not want to make them billable. If you check this box that you want to make them billable, then it's going to go ahead and check that box for you so you don't have to check it all the time. So you can kind of choose whether you want to make them billable or not. It kind of depends on your client and how they are operating and how they are invoicing their customers. And Sharon's got a great question. What if you're doing both fixed fee and billable expenses? Sharon, I would, if the majority of what I'm doing is billable, go ahead and check this box there. You can uncheck it as needed when you're entering an expense. And I'll show you that in just a minute when we're entering expense. So you may or may not check this box. The other thing that we need to talk about setting up is when we're working with our estimates. Okay, when you're working with estimates, you may or may not want to copy that estimate to a purchase order. So I'm still under the expenses setting. See down here where it says copy the estimates to purchase orders. Now this is something that's relatively new in the last, I don't know, few months or so, because one of the things that people talked about the differences between desktop and online was in QuickBooks Premier Desktop, you could enter a sales order, and that sales order could be turned into an invoice or a purchase order. Well, in QuickBooks Online, we had an estimate, and before we could copy that to the invoice, and we couldn't copy it to a purchase order, but now we can. I can't remember when that was updated out there, but now you can copy an estimate to a purchase order. So you'll want to check the box right here so that you could do that. Also then, under your sales, you also want to copy, oh wait, that's under advanced. Where did it go? Here we go. Copy estimates to invoice. You also, and this is different versus a desktop, you didn't have to do anything or turn on a setting or a preference in order to copy that estimate to an invoice. But in QuickBooks Online, you have to check this box if you want to turn in that estimate into an invoice. And then you could choose here whether it's accepted estimates only or pending and accepted. So just be aware, those are some of the settings that you need to make sure that you take a look at and set those things up to help you with the job costing that you're going to be doing. Okay, so that's kind of some of your little prep work. And I put those notes for you on the slides here so that you can see some of the things that you need to turn on and keep those in mind. Now, the next thing we need to do is record our expenses and go ahead and allocate these things to the job. Yes, Susan, you can create estimates in QuickBooks Online. That's what I was just talking about, that you can create those estimates. So let's go back over here to Craig's Design and Landscaping. So we're back in the sample company, and now we're going to talk about how we enter these expenses. So you've got all these job expenses, maybe for materials or you're paying subcontractors. Let's just go ahead and enter an expense, and this would be true whether I'm doing an expense, a check, or a bill. It's the same process. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on expense. Okay, click on expense. And in here, I think I have set up, no, I didn't. Oh, wait, let's see. oh, I can't remember who it was going to be. Let's do it for Hicks Hardware. There we go. Now, under Hicks Hardware, I don't want to use the account details. I want to enter the items details. That's the other thing is you need to make sure that you set up your items or your products and services as a two-sided or double-sided item. You know, and that's where one time we had this big debate about whether it's two-sided or double-sided, and I think it depends on where you live. It's like tomato and tomato. So some people will call them two-sided items. Some people call them double-sided items. But let me show you what we're talking about. Under the gear, right here, under the big gear, you'll see the products and services. This is the same thing as the items list. And sometimes you'll see it called items in QBO. Sometimes you'll see it called products and services. Like when we were turning on the items table to enter it on the expense form, it was called items. Well, now here it's called our products and services list. So let's go in and look at some of these. And for example, design. On design, this is a service. I'm going to go ahead and edit design, and I'm going to scroll down and see, here's the sales portion, right? So we are selling our products and services or our items, and we set up the sales portion. Most of us are familiar with that. But for job costing, what you want to do is go ahead and set up down here and mark that I purchased this product or service from a vendor. This is going to allow you to get a profit and loss by product or service so you can get your margins, so you can see what the margins are on these products and services and make sure that you're marking things up enough and things like that. And people are asking about the handouts. On the GoToWebinar toolbar, they are right there where you can download them. Okay, they are available on that GoToWebinar toolbar. So if you look there. Okay, so over here we're going to make this, we're going to say that we purchased it. So our sales price is $75, but when we pay somebody for this design work, like we're paying a subcontractor, let's say, I'm paying him $40 for this design work. So we're going to make it two-sided. I also did that on a product, like let's say here on concrete. So you can do it on a service item, and I'm going to put here on this concrete, I'm going to click on it and go down, and I can say I purchased this from a vendor. So you can do your products and your services and making them two-sided. Okay, so $250 is what we sell it at, $125 is what we buy it at. And the reason we want to do that, so remember we did designs and we also did concrete. Okay, so we're going to use that over here on my expense. So I'm going to pay someone for some design work. So I'm going to go ahead and tab across on design, and let's say I did, let's do 10 hours of design. And here's where I can choose, do I want to make it billable or not? Okay, so I want to do it billable or not. And Krista says that concrete is listed as service. You can do it on a service or a product, Krista. You're right. That one was set up as a service. It should have been a product. But yes, you can make products two-sided as well. So here's where you choose, do I want to make this billable or not? I'm going to go ahead and unselect it on this one, but I'm still going to set up a job cost customer. So I'm going to set up, actually I think I set up another new one. Yeah, let's just go ahead. All right, a job cost customer. Then here's where I'm going to do the concrete, and go ahead and choose concrete, and let's do it for 5 units. And let's make it billable. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to show you the differences. Both of these, so one of them's marked billable, one of them's not. Both of these will allow us to see the cost or the expenses on our customers' profit and loss by job, if you will, or on the income by customer summary. And I'm going to show you these reports in a few minutes. But because we've marked this second one here for concrete as billable, when we invoice the customer, that will come over as a billable expense. This first one won't. But we're tracking the cost on both of them. So just keep in mind, we marked the concrete billable, we marked the design as not billable, or we didn't mark it at all. So I've entered the expense, I've marked which customer it goes to. Let's go ahead and save and close that now. Now when I save and close, I'm going to take you through the whole process here, and then we're going to go look at some other things. Okay? Let's go ahead and click on the plus, and let's click on invoice. Okay, so click on invoice. All right, so I'm clicking on the invoice here, and it was a job cost customer. Okay, a job cost customer. Now notice what happened over here on the right side. notice what happened on the right side. This slid over the concrete for the fountain installation. So this is a billable expense for the materials that we had on the job. I can add that. But remember, we entered two things. We entered design and we entered the concrete. But the design was not marked as billable, so it doesn't slide over. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add the concrete on here. And let's go ahead and just, let me go ahead and put some design on here too. Let's say I didn't want to make it billable. I'm going to go ahead and just add, let's do 20 hours of design. Let's say we paid our subcontractor for 10 hours, and maybe we, the owner, also had 10 hours in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just save and close this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save and close. So now I entered some expenses for this customer, and I entered an invoice for this customer. So let's go look at a couple of reports, and then we'll get back into doing some more transactions and things in just a minute, more details. So under the reports, a couple of different things I want to show you. First of all, under all reports, under review sales, I can come in here and click review sales, scroll down just a little bit. See this income by customer summary? This is where I can see income by customer summary for all of my customers that would have it. Now in this case, I just have the one that I've added. So here's the job cost customer. Here's the invoice that we just created. And here's the expenses. Now notice the expenses. I'm going to go ahead and click on it to drill down. So I'm going to click on this, and you'll see both of the line items are there. The cost of labor, which was our design services, and the job materials, which was our concrete. Both of them were tracked for job costing purposes. But when I created that invoice, remember only one of them popped over. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this to remind you, see how it says billable? This one was not marked as billable. So it still tracks that expense, but it's not making it billable on an invoice to pull over to an invoice. So if you've got if you've got fixed fee clients where your clients are charging a fixed fee for the job, they still want to track their expenses, just don't mark it as billable. That way you still will see it on the reports. Now, I showed you this income, excuse me, I'm getting the hiccups. I showed you this income by expense summary, but you also, let's go back to that report summary. So here was the income by expense summary, and I drilled down into the details. I'm sorry, the income by customer summary. You also could create a profit and loss by customer. So I'm going to go into my business overview, and I'm going to click on a profit and loss report. Now this is where you'll see, here's my P&L report. I come up here and I'm going to choose what do I want to see. I can come through here and I can say I want to see this by customers and click run that report. And you'll see here I have my job cost customer where I've got the design income and I've got the job materials that I charged. And then down here's some more, because I did this earlier, so there's actually a couple of them on here. But you'll see where you can do it for by customers, and then you also could go in and customize and filter and just look for the particular customer that you want. So for example, I could just get one particular customer. Whoops, I'm on account. I meant to click on customer. I can go in here and just choose the one customer that I want. So I can get a P&L by customer showing my income and my expenses for that customer. The other thing that you can do, remember I told you you could do it by product or service. I can click on products and services down here. That's going to give me, whoops, let me take this off over here. I don't want to filter by customer anymore. So I now will see my profit and loss by product or service. So you'll see here's design, here's fountains, here's concrete, here's my income. I am so sorry, excuse me. So here's my products and services. So here's your income for those, here's your expenses. So on this design, we invoiced for $1,500, we paid a subcontractor $1,400, my net or gross margin, my margin here is $1,100. What did I make on that one? And so you can go through and get either your gross margins or your net margins depending on how you're tracking your job expenses. Okay, whether you've got your job expenses set up as a cost of goods sold item or down below as just a regular expense. So you can get that. What I would do is I would go ahead and customize this to change the heading, and I would save this report. Okay, so I would come in here and change it, and I would also go in and memorize or save the customization. So under the head and footer, I would say P&L by item or product and service, whichever one you wanted to call it. So you've got those reports customized as well. Okay? All right, let me go ahead and go back to my slides for just a moment here. Let's see how we're doing on time. I'm going to jump ahead for a second and go ahead and give you the CPE keyword. Okay, the CPE keyword is castle. This is a castle up on top of the hill that we got to tour when I went on my Viking River cruise over in Europe this summer. It was awesome. We saw lots of castles on our cruise down the Rhine River, so it was really fun. So castle, castle, castle. And Larry says, is it possible to track overhead for each job? Larry, what I recommend you do is if you're using job costing, go ahead and set up a customer for overhead. So that way, if you've got expenses that are to be allocated to, that are out overhead and not a specific customer or job, you could go ahead and put them there. If you want to assign an overhead allocation rate to each job, you're going to need to do that manually or look for a third-party app. Okay? No, this is not an ACE webinar, Alexa. And how do I tell Intuit when I've gotten ACE credit? Intuit's going to notify people how to report that. So just hold on to it and track it for now, and then you can do that later. Okay? All right, so castle, 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 castle. I said that at least 5 or 6 times, and I've had it up on the screen for several times. So make sure that you've got castle written down for the CPE keyword. Now, the other thing, I showed you how to enter an expense in QBO, but this is the other thing that's, I think, helpful for you to understand, is how you can enter expenses on your mobile device, because your clients may be out entering things on their mobile devices when they're buying their job materials and things like that. Whoops, let me get that right back up there. Okay, so what I have here is I am in, and I guess I'm not sure how to make this better, but you guys should be able to see this just fine, where you can see the mobile app. This is actually my phone right here that you're seeing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through, and this is on Larry's landscaping. I could not do it on the sample company. But I'm going to come down. I'm going to say I want to enter an expense. Okay, so this is your client going out to the hardware store, let's say, and they're buying some job materials or something. So I'm going to say I spent $153.86. and I paid for it with my credit card. It's asking which credit card account. You can choose which account. Who did I pay? I'm going to say Connor, let's see, where is it? Connor Garden and Design. So I'm going to put it to Connor Garden Supplies. It was for job materials. Who was it for? I'm going to put this to a job cost customer. Actually, I'll put it to a new job cost customer that I just created. And so this is where I'm going to put that in there. And then this is what's great, too. I can have my client take a picture. So in this case, I'll take a picture looking out my office window here. I'm pretending that's the receipt. All right, that's supposed to be the receipt. Okay, I didn't have a receipt here. And now I'm going to go ahead and save this. So remember, it was $153.86 for Connor and a new job cost customer. So you teach your clients to use their phone, and I'm not sure why it's flickering like that. You teach your clients to use their phone to enter these expenses, and they also can take a picture of that receipt and have it attached. Then when you go into QuickBooks, let me pull up Larry's Landscaping. When you go into QuickBooks, and let's do a refresh, because it's got to beam me up, Scotty. And let's click up here into recent transactions and see if it's up there. There's, that one's from earlier though. Let's go over here to, let's go to our vendors, and let's go find Connor Garden Supplies. All right, and what did I do it for? 156, because we got some of these. Connor Garden Supplies, what was it, the amount? Some of these dates are 2018 and 2019. Here's today. I did this one right here, $153.86. Here is that expense that I entered. You guys watched me enter this on my phone. Connor Garden Supplies, I paid for it with QuickBooks credit card. I put it to job materials, $153.86. I assigned it to a new customer, a new job cost customer, and look at this down here. See this? Under attachments, there's the picture that I just took looking out my office window. Yes, I have a great lake view now. I love it, but it's kind of rainy and cloudy today. but I took a picture of that receipt and it's attached. So the one thing that's a problem with this that I need to make you aware of, you know how I told you we should be tracking two-sided items so that we can see our product and service profitability, the margins? When you're doing it on your phone, I didn't assign that to a item. Did you notice that? I was able to assign that to an expense account, but I didn't have the option to choose a product or service on that. Now, the other thing that I couldn't do, I couldn't mark it billable. I couldn't mark it billable. Okay, so I could not mark it billable. So that was kind of a thing that I didn't like. And now, let me just double check something here. Yeah, I see all expenses and revenue. I just see accounts. I don't see products or services on my mobile device, and I also I can't mark it as billable. So those are a couple of limitations to keep in mind. However, it's still a good idea if you can get your clients to do this and attach that receipt. Now, feedback for Intuit, I would love it if Intuit would make the QBO mobile app where we could assign an item, a product or service, and where we could make it billable. That would make it so much better. Helen says, what mobile app is that? That is the QuickBooks Online mobile app. It is free, and it's included with your subscription to QBO. So it's free, it's included. No, this app does not work with the desktop. It's with QuickBooks Online. Okay. Can I use OCR for expense receipts? David, there are some third-party apps for expenses, such as Expensify, Receipt Bank, that will read that receipt and do the posting for those, so you might want to check for those as well. Alexa says, can you now move the entry in the item section? You could. If I wanted to come in here and change it over here and change it to concrete, or whatever I needed to do, yes, I could move that. So you could edit this and make the changes that you need to. However, I think it's just better if we could get Intuit to fix the QBO mobile app. So what you guys could do is please click on the gear in the upper right corner, click on the gear, and send feedback to Intuit that on the QBO mobile app, when you're entering an expense, you would like to be able to assign a product or service and make it billable to a particular customer. Okay, so I'm trying to let you know what you can do in QuickBooks Online and what you cannot do in QuickBooks Online. So let me go ahead and go back to my slides. So that is, again, that is the QuickBooks mobile app. If you just go to iTunes or the Google Android store to get your Google apps or whatever, just go to wherever you get apps for your mobile device and you look for QuickBooks, and you'll sign in to your QuickBooks account, and it allows you to enter those things on your mobile devices, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, also when you're downloading transactions, these are some things that I want to show you out here. So some are saying, do you prefer clients to use a QBO mobile app to capture receipts, or do you prefer Receipt Bank? It really depends on the client and their complexity and their ability to do things. Receipt Bank will automatically read those receipts for you. It scans them and reads them, which is great. Expensify does that as well. But Receipt Bank wouldn't be able to know what customer it was for. So you kind of need to test them out, try them out, and consider your clients as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. How does the lack of ability to post to an item affect reporting? Christy, if you want to see profitability by item, and let me just go back in here. Let's run that report again. Let's go under reports, profit and loss. Let's do a P&L. And so I've got a profit and loss run. I want to run my profit and loss by product or service. So by item, my profit and loss by item. This will show you your income. So up here you've got your income, and this one we've got a whole lot of items set up for them. So you can see your income, and then you also see your expenses. So you can see your profit margins. So here's gross profit. You could calculate your gross profit margins to make sure you're marking things up enough to make sure your clients are being profitable. You also, if you've got them below the line, you would see a net profit margin as well, depending on how you're recording your expenses. So a lot of people want to monitor the profitability of their items with job costing. A lot of people don't want just the profitability by job, but also by item. So they know whether I'm marking things up enough or not. Am I making a reasonable profit on those things? Okay. So hopefully that helps to kind of explain some of that for you. So and then somebody says the reports get really cumbersome when you have a lot of items. Can you get a report with the items in rows rather than columns? No, but what you can do, come up here under Customize and then click on Filter and come down here and see where it says Product or Service. I could filter just for those particular items that I want to find. Like let's say I just wanted to see concrete and design. So let's say I just want to see those two. Run that report. Now I'm just seeing concrete and design. So you can filter just for those particular items. And then once you do that, save the customization so you have this report available to you. So P&L by item is what I might want to call it. And then save that so that you don't have to customize that anymore. Okay, so go ahead and filter those to get just what you're wanting. Okay. So somebody says on this report, what happens to the expense that was not entered as an item? So Alexa, on this P&L by item, I wouldn't see that expense down here under the expenses. However, if I did just a normal profit and loss, I would see it on my normal profit and loss, just not by item here. Does that make sense? So your overall, because it's going to an account, it's not being assigned to an item, you're not going to be able to get it a P&L by item on that one. But the account would still have that in there, like job materials would still have it in there. Does that make sense? And you know what? This is a great example of where go into this practice company. Let me see if I'm back in my practice company, Craig's Design. Go into Craig's Design and just play around with it and test things out and things like that. Okay, and yes, Edwin says, can you change the entry to show the item after the fact? Yes, you can edit that and you can do that. All right, let me show you a couple of other things as well. The downloaded transactions is something else that I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to go in here to the downloaded transactions, because that's another thing is if your client is using lots of credit cards to pay for things or lots of debit card purchases, downloading transactions is way, way faster than manually entering these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look down here, and I want you to see, let me scroll up to get them up to the top. See how we have two transactions here for A rental, for Ellis Equipment Rental, and we've got one's 800. We actually have three, but one's income or a deposit. Maybe we got a refund on something we returned. So here's the two expenses, 800 and 1200. If I go into the first one, A rental, and let's say I want to put it to job expenses, let's just put it to job expenses, I can mark this as billable. I can select this to a particular customer or job. If I had class or location tracking turned on, I would be able to do that. Now, watch what happens. When I change this from uncategorized expense to job expenses, on the one right below it, it says, aha, I think you want this to be job expenses. See this little note right here? It says, we'll set A rental to job expenses from now on. So it kind of creates its own rule based on what you've done. However, so it will assign the account, and I could go ahead and click add. However, when I now look at this next one, let's go ahead and click on the next one for 1200, it does not remember the billable and the job that I assigned it to. Okay, so you need to edit, if you're not edit, yeah, you need to click on each one of these. If you are downloading the job cost expenses, your client's out, you know, with the credit card, the debit card, they did not enter them on their mobile app, so they just were downloaded from the bank. You then need to assign whether it's billable or not and the customer in here for that particular transaction in order to do that. Does that make sense? You cannot set up a rule. This rule where it creates the rule to do job expenses, it does that automatically. It does not remember the billable or the customer. And if you come up here to set up your own bank rule, like if I'm going to click on new rule, I want to do A rental. Let's say when the bank text contains A rental, I want you to assign it to Ellis Equipment Rental, and I want you to put it to job expenses. But notice there's no way for me to click to assign that to be billable or to assign that to a particular customer. And you know, that makes sense to me because when I go to the hardware store, I may buy things for 5 different customers or 5 different jobs and stuff. So you can't set up the rules on the job costing. So just keep that in mind. On the downloaded transactions, you need to click on that transaction and actually assign the customer and whether it's billable or not. So let me find one that's unassigned here. Like here's Books by Bessie, uncategorized expense. Click on it, and that's where you can assign it to a particular customer. Does that make sense? Okay, so hopefully that helps. And Matthew's got a good tip here. Yes, that's a good idea. Add a memo to the rules that you can do a search by to quickly go back and edit them. That's a good idea. You could do that. Also looking for those particular vendors that you know are the ones they buy the materials and supplies from and things like that. Can a downloaded transaction be split among 2 customers? No, Julie, not at this time. You have to pick one customer. You can't split them between customers. Can you assign one receipt to multiple jobs? That is a great question, and I wouldn't do it in right here. Click on this split. I'm sorry, I'm just getting all jumbled in my words. I was reading questions and trying to talk at the same time. If you click on split, this is where you can add additional customers or additional categories, if you will, so job costs, all that. Let's see, I don't know if customers over here. There's not. So I can add additional accounts, but I can't assign it to split it to between different customers. So no, you would not be able to do it here, but if you went ahead and added it, then later you could go back in and edit it if you needed to, okay? You could edit that if you needed to. Somebody's asking, what about the entry for this one just above Bessie? This one's a match. So this Books by Bessie match here, there was already an expense entered for 75, so it's matched at that, okay? It's giving you a match there, okay? All right, so hopefully some of that helps. Let me kind of see where we're at. I've covered that. Doesn't look like you can assign an item to download transactions. That's correct, Keith. You cannot assign an item. You can only assign an account. And again, this is QuickBooks Online, so there are things that are different from the desktop, and I'm trying to point out what you can do and what you can't do. We talked about some of these reports, and I love your questions. Keep typing them in there, so I will look for you, okay? I will look for the questions. From bank feeds, you choose one customer. From the In QuickBooks tab, you can open the same entry and then split it between multiple customers. That's one way you could do it. So after you've added or matched something, it moves from For Review over to In QuickBooks. And yes, you can find that transaction there, and you can go into, right here's the expense where you added it, and you can go in to edit that at that time. So if instead of an account, you could move it to a product or service, and you could also then do multiple customers if you need to split that out, okay? Okay, so let me cover just a couple of more things, and then I will get back to your questions. So keep typing your questions in there because I love that. A couple of things that I wanted to tell you about, some of the limitations with QuickBooks Online. So you can do, I showed you how you can do basic job costing. You can assign an expense to a customer. You can make it billable. You can invoice for those billable expenses. You can mark up the billable expenses. You can get a profit and loss by customer. You can get a profit and loss by product or service or by your items. So you can do basic job costing with QuickBooks Online. However, there are some limitations. I just mentioned you can't create the bank rules because you can't assign a customer, and I don't know that you would want to because, like I said, you know, if they go to Home Depot or Lowe's, they may buy stuff for 5 different jobs, okay? So that's something to keep in mind there. You cannot assign the customers in the rules, and also it's not going to remember the customer job and whether it's billable or not if you're just adding those transactions. You cannot do progress invoicing with QuickBooks Online. Now, I know there's some people that have written some blog posts, you know, a while back that, hey, here's a workaround to do progress invoicing, and it involves creating estimates and duplicating estimates and revising estimates and then doing this. based on my discussion with lots of other pro advisors as well as clients, that's more trouble than it's worth. And not only that, the clients are not able to do that without creating huge messes. So I do not recommend trying that. What I do recommend is getting a third-party app for either the progress invoicing, and the other big limitation, you cannot allocate payroll. If you're using QuickBooks Online Payroll, or you've got payroll integrated with QuickBooks Online, you can assign the labor to particular customers. Okay, so you can't allocate payroll to customers or jobs. So if you have clients that need progress invoicing that want to allocate the payroll and the labor to the jobs, then you're going to need a third-party app. Okay, so I would look at a third-party app. A couple of them that you might want to check out, and there's lots available. If you go to Appscom, that's where you'll find all of the apps that are Intuit approved. That's the app store for QuickBooks Online. Nofi or BQE from BillQuick. Check those out for doing the labor costing as well as the progress invoicing. Okay, so Nofi and BQE from BQE from BillQuick. I'll get it right. Okay, so all you want to do is go out here and go to apps.com, and they have videos that are going to show you how they work, and I actually will check with them and see if there's some interest and you'd like to get these people on to do demos for you, we would do that. We will get them on. So let's look for Nofi, and let's just see. Here's Nofi out here. Notice Nofi for contractors. If you click on it, it's going to pop up. You can see they got 15 reviews, all 5-star. So here's your overview where you can watch this. You can then look at the reviews and see what other people say about it. Here's the pricing. You can see how it's different pricing for different number of users. And then also the other one was BQE. Check that one out, BQE from BillQuick. And you can see details on it as well. Okay, here's an overview, here's reviews, here's the pricing, and then support. So lots of information out there on these things. They all offer you a free trial where you can go in and test it out and work with it and things like that. Okay, so let me know if those are things that you're interested in, and we will try to get that for you. Now, no, QuickBooks Online Payroll cannot allocate the labor to the jobs. Okay, so no, that doesn't allocate the labor to the jobs. April says, can you track time in T-sheets and bill employee time? April, you can track the time and you can bill the employee's time with T-sheets. T-sheets will integrate with QuickBooks Online. However, it will not allocate the labor cost, the payroll cost by customer. Okay, so you can track the time and things like that, but you can't allocate the cost to the customers. That's the piece that's missing there. Okay, is there an app that will allocate the payroll cost by customer? You know, that's where, look at these, like BQE, look at BQE for allocating the labor costs. I'm not sure about Nofi, it might, but BQE, I've been told it does, and you might also check out Nofi because I think it does as well. Okay, so great questions, okay? All right, let's see a couple of other questions do we have. You also cannot have employee info if you're not using QuickBooks Online Payroll. That's true, Sue. If you go click over on the employee tab over here, you can't even enter an employee name or anything like that unless you turn on payroll. Now this is a sample company, so we do have a few things out there without it working, but you do have to turn that on in order to have that out there, okay? All right, let's see. In 2017, is QuickBooks changing the limitation of job costing? William and everybody, always, this is a very common question, is when will I be able to do progress invoicing? When can I do this? Keep sending Intuit your feedback. Under that gear, click on feedback and send Intuit your feedback. This is requested a lot, and I can tell you Intuit is listening. For example, the ability to copy that estimate to a purchase order. That's something that was highly requested. It wasn't there like last year, so it was updated. The ability in the downloaded transactions to assign a customer in there, that is something that was added that wasn't there initially. Let me go to one of them that's not a match. The ability to make this billable to a customer, that has been added. So Intuit is listening, and they are working on it, but we can't say for sure, yes, you're going to have progress invoicing and it'll be next year, or yes, it's going to be in the next 6 months, or whatever that. Just know that Intuit is listening to the feedback. The product managers get all that feedback that you're sending in there, and then they are working and updating QBO every single month. So the more of you that send the feedback, so again, click on the gear and right here where it says feedback. Okay, that's how you send Intuit your suggestions and your feedback. Okay. Okay, so Ron is asking about marking an expense billable and then being able to enter the markup. If you want to set a specific markup, let's go back in and look at our account settings. Okay. So click on the gear, and over here under Account and Settings, under Expenses, okay, if I want to make that a default markup rate, let's say of 20%, I can enter that here. So then you'll see it on an invoice, and you'll be able to have that markup automatic there, or you could override it, okay? So hopefully that will help there, okay? Good question. Other questions that you guys have, I'm trying to read through here. Somebody says, let's see. Let's see. And Woody, if you want to start anywhere, if you want to flag any of these that I should review for people, you guys do have some great questions. Does the mobile app remember the account allocation based on the vendor? Are you talking about in the bank feed area, Nancy? I don't know for sure without testing that one. And that's the best way I found, is to test some of these things or set it up with your own in order to do that. Okay. Let me see. Are you talking about the bank feeds in there? Let's go ahead and look at some of this. All right. I'm not sure on that one, Nancy. Send me an email and I will check that out for you. Okay. Somebody says, any idea how T-Sheets works with Intuit QBO Payroll? Jackie, what T-Sheets allows is a lot greater control and approval process and greater reporting capabilities for employees' time. The employees are able to enter their time on T-Sheets. You can get all kinds of reports. You can review time. You can approve time, all this stuff that you can do before the time comes into QuickBooks to do the payroll. So T-Sheets will feed the information into QBO to process the paychecks. So you'll do the paychecks in QBO Payroll, but all the time tracking and those reports and the control and approvals and all that is done in the T-Sheets app. Okay, so T-Sheets is amazing. I encourage you to check that out. Okay, we had another question about the reports, and I had customized that report and I saved it, and somebody wanted to kind of know where that went. If you click on reports, so remember we created the P&L by customer or by product or service or by item. Once you customize a report and you save the customization, it's going to show up right here under My Custom Reports. I am in the sample company, and I did that one under Larry's Landscaping. So let me go into Larry's, and here's My Custom Reports, and we should see P&L by item right here where I created that report, P&L by item. So then I can click on that, and I see it's displaying by product or services, and remembered I filtered to just have 2 items because somebody said there's too many. How can we just see a few? Now, here's the other thing that's really cool that you can do. Let's say you want to run this report a lot, and instead of going into reports and My Custom Reports and finding it and clicking on it, you want one-click access to this report. Get the report up on the screen that you want, and then come up here, see the little star up on the top corner at the end of my URL line? Click, and this is how you do it in Chrome. It's going to be different in Firefox, and I don't recommend using IE, but click to bookmark that. Now, look how long that is. I don't want it that long, so let's change it to profit and loss by item. Or maybe that's even too long. Let's just say P&L by item. Now, watch, if I can type right, watch what's going to go right up here. It's going to create a new bookmark for me. So I'm going to click Done. There's P&L by item. Now, if I go back to, let's say, my Customers tab, let's say I want my P&L by item, just click on the P&L by item, and it's going to generate that report with one-click access. How cool is that? This is your bookmark bar that gives you one-click access to various things. Like, for example, my chart of accounts. I've got one-click access to my balance sheet or my profit and loss. So you can have one-click access to these things, and you can rearrange to put them in the order that you want them to be in. So this, you can also help your clients set this stuff up to do. Okay, so you can set this up so that your clients have kind of a workflow of the order that they're supposed to do things in. I'm going to type in, just 1 second. See, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. Here's the URL to the YouTube video that tells you how to do the bookmark bar. It's a great time saving. It also shows you how to do the tabbed browsing and things like that to where you can do that stuff. So copy that bit.ly/QBO tips, and the capitalization is important on that. That's the tips video that will help you to see how to do some of those things. Is this your default bookmark bar, or does this only pop up when you have QBO open? Nancy, I have multiple users in Chrome. So in Google Chrome, you can set up multiple users. So the puppy dog user, which you see down here in the lower left, I've got my puppy dog user open, I got my happy face user open, and I have my martini glass. This allows me to be, for example, here's QBO and QBOA. I can be logged into different clients or different companies in QuickBooks Online as different users. I have a different bookmark bar for my normal web browsing, the puppy dog, than I do for my QBO. So when I'm in QBO, I want my QBO bookmarks here, and this will work on whatever client I happen to be logged into. So it shows you how to do this in that video that I just posted the link for that. So go ahead and check that out. And I will check for a couple of other quick questions in just a minute, but I need to be able to give you CPE credit. So let me launch this poll question here for the CPE keyword. Okay, so put the CPE keyword in there, and I will try to answer some additional questions. But those of you that need to leave, you can go ahead. My Chrome does not show add a person at the bottom. Jody, I'm not sure which one you have, but click on the, I'll show you in just a minute another way that you might be able to do that. Does anyone use the QBO app for desktop? Melissa, yes. Some people like the QBO app for desktop. And what I found is if you preferred the menus in QuickBooks Desktop, the QBO Desktop app has those menus there. On the other hand, I really like the icon bar. And with Chrome, I can create my own icon bar. And I also like to right-click on things, open those in a new tab. So I prefer using Chrome instead of the desktop app. There are pros and cons to each one. If you go back and look in the QBO archives a couple of months ago, gosh, we're in September already. It might have been early summer. We did one on the different ways to access QBO and the pros and cons of the different methods, because there's actually 4 different ways that you can access QuickBooks Online, from a browser like Chrome on your computer, from a mobile device like I showed you on my phone, from the Chrome app on a tablet, and also from the desktop app. Okay, so go ahead and answer this CPE keyword. We still have several people. If you need CPE credit, please answer that keyword question here on the poll. I'll give you a few more minutes or a few more seconds. So last call, answer this poll question if you need it. Okay, last call on that. Last call on that. And Michael says the QBO app allows windows without doing the right click. You're right, you can have multiple windows open in it as well. I just like that right click, open in a new window. I've gotten used to that. The other thing that is cool about the desktop app is it will auto refresh the windows for you. So that's kind of nice. Again, the webinar, the QB Power Hour that we did earlier this year, we covered the options for accessing QBO, and it is important so that you know all of those for your clients. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll question there. Thank you for those of you that answered it. To add multiple users in Chrome, try clicking on the gear, or this 3 lines right here to get this menu. So in Chrome, click on the 3 lines under Settings. In here, you'll see where it says People and Add a Person, to try to add a person there, okay? The bit.ly address is QBO Tips, okay? Let me copy and paste that for you again. You'll want to write that down, and you can share that with your clients as well, okay? Write that down. All right, the QBO app has become much faster than browsers. Well, thank you, Brent, for sharing that. That's good to know. All right, and then somebody else says they use the QBO Windows app and Chrome. They switch between them depending on how well either is working. That's a good point, Christy. Sometimes that makes a difference. All right, any other last minute? There's a lot of questions here. It's just been kind of hard to go through them all. Thank you, Kathy. She said, super helpful webinar. All right, well, very good. Okay, thank you guys all for joining me. We are at the top of the hour, so I know we're going to have a lot of people leaving. Do you feel Google is the best browser for QBO? Yes, I think using Google Chrome is the preferred browser. A lot of us recommend it for various reasons. One of the main ones I love is, like I said, being able to set up multiple users so I can have my one-click icon bar up here, and then also the ability to have those multiple users allows you to be logged into multiple companies at the same time. That's where, see right here, I'm in Larry's Landscape and Design, and over here, this one is Craig's Design. So it allows me to have 2 of them open at the same time. You got to be very careful when you do that, though, because they all look the same. So you do have to be careful with that. Okay? All right. Let's see if we got another one. Let's see. Thank you, Kathy. She says she always learns something. Very good. Okay, Joy is saying something about in Windows 10 she can only have 1 Chrome account open at a time. Joy, I'm not sure what you're doing or what's happening, but I am using Windows 10 myself, and I can have more than 1 Chrome account open at the same time. So it must be something in your settings, or maybe you're using the Chrome app instead of the Chrome browser. There's different things, so I'm not sure. I would Google that to see what's going on there. Okay? All right, well, you guys were great. Somebody says, how can I get to Larry's Landscape Sample Company? That's one that we've created as trainers and Intuit employees. Larry's Landscape is not available for you. However, you've got Craig's Design and Landscaping Service that you can do all of the same things. Okay, so to access Craig's Design and Landscaping, when you're in QBOA, when you're in QuickBooks Online Accountant, under the gear, you can click on Sample Company, and that will take you to Craig's Design and Landscaping. Or just Google QuickBooks Test Drive, and you'll find the link to that sample company. That's a great way to figure things out in QuickBooks, to learn how it works, and just to test it out and play with it. And you can share that with your clients as well so that they can get into the test drive to play with it. Okay? All right. Well, I want to thank Woody. He was online answering some questions while he could. We want to say good luck to Hector with finishing out tax season this year. But thank you guys all, and I hope to see you in some of the cities across the U.S. this fall for some of the various training. Make sure you subscribe to my blog or follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, and I'll share the link where you can do that. Okay? Very good. Is there a sample company for lawyers? No, Christina, there's not one available there. What's the link to your blog? Good question. I'll put that out here. long4success.com/blog. Just go ahead and copy that as well. Is the test drive account just QBO, not QBOA? That's right, Carolyn. There's no test drive for QBOA, although that would be nice. What we've done as trainers and Intuit employees is we've created this fictitious firm like Adams, Guild, and Gibson. This is just a sample firm and sample clients that we created for training purposes. Also, if you want to save the questions log, thank you, Michael. If you click on the Go to Webinar, click on File, Save Questions Log, and that way you can save some of these questions that were asked, okay? What email address? Nancy, if you go to my website, Long for Success, there's a Contact Us form there that you could use if you need to get a hold of me. All right. This was a great webinar. Thank you guys all for attending, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye, everybody.